El rol de un diseñador de experiencia de usuario es esencial para el éxito de un producto o de un servicio, pero esto no significa que seamos el centro del universo. También existen otros roles, otras áreas que son muy importantes para poder llevar a la luz estos productos o servicios. Un ejemplo de esto es el rol de los desarrolladores que nos ayudan a poder materializar estas experiencias digitales, y la colaboración con ellos es esencial para el éxito del producto final. Así que en este video quiero hablar sobre la importancia de esta colaboración y de cómo hacerla más efectiva. Colaborar con desarrolladores puede llegar a ser todo un desafío para nosotros los diseñadores. Por ejemplo, cuando comenzamos el proceso de diseño y no sabemos cuándo integrarlos, cómo integrarlos, también cuando ya tenemos que entregar los assets, es decir, los elementos de diseño para que ellos puedan comenzar con el desarrollo. Esta etapa es muy importante y a veces genera bastante complicaciones. Estas son algunas de las cuestiones que he conversado con Michael Kuhinica, que es un desarrollador que trabaja en la empresa Optimal Workshop, que por cierto Optimal Workshop es el sponsor de este video y ha estado colaborando con UX Tips últimamente, apoyando así a la comunidad de UX en español. Y todo esto porque Optimal Workshop es mi herramienta favorita y por eso es el primer sponsor de este canal. Si quieren conocer más sobre Optimal Workshop, voy a dejar enlaces sobre todas sus herramientas en la descripción de este video. Bueno, Michael es un Senior Full Stack Developer que trabaja en todas las etapas de desarrollo de un producto, desde la investigación, el desarrollo hasta la medición del producto final. Es apasionado por la interacción humano-computadora y utiliza la empatía y la informática para poder crear mejores experiencias para todos. Ahora vamos a ver la entrevista, pero antes no te olvides de activar los subtítulos porque esta entrevista va a ser en inglés. Okay, welcome Michael. I'm really excited to have you on this interview today and to dive into your experience as a developer working with UX designers. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being here. Okay, so to start with, I would like to know about you and how did you start working as a developer?
Oh, that's been a long time ago. I think ever since the first time I saw a computer, I said, yeah, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do when I grow up, which is very fortunate. And I really, really enjoy building tools and working with tools, things that make humans do things better than they could before. So that's something that I really enjoy. And programming it's just like that for me. It's just like building a hammer, but for the brain. And that's really exciting. And I started it like I was 13, I guess, just building small scripts so I could play RPG games with my friends online. Very nerdy, very nerdy. And for most of my career, I was very much focused on coding and on programming. And for most of my career, I used to see the computer as the end user kind of thing. It wasn't until I learned about human-centered design. I read the toolkit from IDEO a long time ago, back in Brazil, and that really changed my perspective on my whole career. I started to see that the computer was not the end user, the computer was a means to the end, and that's when I started to say, okay, let's get this tech a little bit closer to the humans, and that's where my love affair with UX started.
That's great. So now that you're in your bio, you mentioned that you work on all phases of product development, right? From discovery research to development, also to measuring impact, right? But can you tell us a little bit about this role in discovery research? What does it mean? Can you explain? As a developer,
absolutely.
right?
As a developer, yeah, and it's right. It's quite cool. It's hard to begin with. I think it's a whole different process than we are used to as developers. It's a whole different kind of work, but it's so important. And I think once you kind of approach it with the right mindset as a developer, you can go really far, and that can be really good for the project and for your career. For me, I approach it is in a way of like, it's kind of like debugging humans. On programming, a lot of times we have to do that debugging, is that programs are so complex and we don't really know what's going on. So we have to go deep and prod things and ask questions for the program and say, okay, what's going on here? What's going on there? And that's quite interesting. In the end, it kind of provides the same kind of brain chemicals that debugging would, but in a different context. So it's really cool to see, like, instead of understanding how things are working on a discovery research, you go more into why things are like this. And that's a big change. But I think being part of the discovery from the beginning really helps when it comes to the development, to know what is the minimum work that I can do that will cause the biggest impact. Because I understand the customers at that point. I feel their pain, so I can much easier prioritize my work and say, okay, I could spend 3 hours refactoring those classes, or I could spend 15 minutes changing this button, and that would cause a huge impact on our users. So it's much easier to kind of prioritize what I should work on.
Exactly. But I imagine that you collaborate with designers also to understand more, right, about this.
Yes. Here at Optimal, we have a very, very collaborative working style. So it's one of the first times in my career where my team is not only developers, it's developers, researchers, product owners, designers, everybody working together. And the way that we do this here is that we say that there's 3 kind of facets to a product. There's the technical facet, that's the feasibility. There's the design facets, that's the desirability. And also the business facets, that's the viability. Could that product be a real product? So we always collaborate, these 3 kind of facets always collaborate to try to understand the problem and create a solution that is good for everybody. So on the discovery research, at least these 3 kind of people wearing those 3 hats are part of it. And it's really, I think once everybody understands that we are here to help the customer, to help the users, it's really easy to collaborate. We know that we are on the same page.
Right. And what can designers do to make an engineer's life easier from your perspective?
I think clear and open collaboration is a very important one. And also being brave, being bold, I think it's important. A lot of times people get into the defensive. I understand, because when you create a design and when you create a program is the same, you get connected to it. It's your little baby, you know, like you made this. So detaching a little bit yourself from that and seeing that as a piece of work that can be changed and should be changed, I think is a very good thing. In the past, I've collaborated with designers that can get a little bit defensive when their design is torn apart, as we do when we're trying to make something get better. So there is a saying that we have here at Optimal that assume good intent. You have to assume that if someone's criticizing your work, their intentions are good, and understand that everybody wants to work on making everything better.
Exactly. And that's also a very important skill that designers need to have, right? More flexibility and adaptability on the changes, right?
Totally. It's very important. I think it's good for every professional, and
Exactly.
Distance yourself from your work. Know that your work, it's yours, it's important, but it's not you. It doesn't reflect your value as a human being.
Okay, and now let's talk about another important topic, which is the handoff process, that sometimes if it's not performed well, could lead into a lot of complications, right? So what makes for you a good design handoff, and what tools do you use nowadays to do this?
Cool. Well, I might be a little bit controversial, but I think the best handoff is the one that doesn't exist. So like if the designer and the developer can collaborate all the way through, all together, there's no handoff. The designer can show the Figma file, the sketch file, the Photoshop, whatever, they can show it to the developer, and together, one next to each other, they can work and make that product be just like the design. I think that's the perfect world when there is like very deep, close contact collaboration. But if you read the news, you understand that the world is not perfect. So of course, sometimes we do have handoffs, and we do need to do that. People's times now don't always match together. And in that case, I would say collaboration and communication and over communication. As a designer, I think when you are very knowledgeable in a field, it's very easy. It's very hard to understand which are the important parts that should be pointed out, because everything is obvious to you, right? You are an expert. So as a designer, if you want to do a very good handoff for a developer, try to point out and comment on every single thing that you think it's important. And at the end of it, see if there isn't any more in there, because as a developer, we have a different view on those things. Maybe there isn't much difference between 15 and 20 pixels, but there is.
Exactly. So if we don't have a really good collaboration, a better documentation we should deliver, right?
Yes, I
Or both,
think
ideally.
Both, ideally, yes. I think if it's an asynchronous process where there's two people, we're going to work on that on different times, maybe because of time zones, maybe because of times of life, then yes, documentation, as thorough as it could be, as visual and as in context as it could be. If I see a picture and there's an arrow that says 20 pixels in red, it's going to be much easier for me to understand than if I see the documents, the design here and the text here that says that thing on the corner on the left should be 20 pixels. So having a documentation that is thorough and in context, I would say it's very helpful. Figma is a great tool for that. They have a lot of those comment things, and they have an inspection that you as a developer can go and look at how the CSS should look like. So those things really help. They help on turning that handoff invisible.
Yeah, right. Okay, and now let's talk a little bit about the day in the life of a developer at Optimal Workshop. How is your day working at Optimal Workshop?
It varies quite a lot, to be honest. Since we are part of the whole development process of a feature, it turns out that you have to change your hats, switch hats a lot of times. So sometimes you are kind of gathering requirements, talking with people, understanding problems. And sometimes you are more on the solution space where, okay, I understand the problem. Let's try to solve this in the best way possible. And then it's a lot of prototyping. It's a lot of creating different MVPs to see if it works, showing that to people and understanding how they use that. Some other times it's metrics and going into analytics and trying to understand how the usage of certain features have been going. It's a lot of different things. One thing that is part of every day at Optimal, and I think it's very common in places that are highly collaborative, it's a lot of meetings. We have a lot of meetings at Optimal, so a lot of people work in different things that are in the same platform. It's a very big challenge to keep everybody working in the same kind of direction. And we solve this today by having a lot of meetings, having a lot of people that get together and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So that's part of Optimal. Usually in the morning, we have a dev stand-up where every developer in the company get together and talk about what they're working on the day. And after that, every squad have their own stand-ups. So we start the day with 2 stand-ups. I can hear from the camera a lot of developers cringing because that's a lot of people don't like that. But it's how you make the meeting, to be honest. We do make these meetings very fun, very open. One of the core principles on Optimal is bring your whole self to work. So maybe during a stand-up, you could say, guys, I'm not feeling very well today. I'm going home, and it's fine. We assume that everybody's human. But as for a day of a developer, it varies so much. It's a lot of coding, a lot of this research, a lot of meetings, a lot of FaceTime with customers. There's a bit of everything.
It's interesting that you mentioned that about prototyping and also testing. Do you participate on these kind of activities?
Yes,
Testing with
yes,
users?
a lot.
Wow.
We do, yeah. When we are going to a user, we usually what happens is the researcher of the team, she will lead the conversation, and the rest of the team will be there as note takers. So we take notes during that, and then after every single one of those interviews, everybody gets together and we do a little bit of a debrief where we kind of get things that are top of mind, things that are surprising, things that were unexpected. And I think that is very important so that everyone knows and understands the customers and knows and understands the impact of their work into the day-to-day life of a customer.
Yeah,
and exactly. It's one thing looking at graphs, and it's another thing hearing a customer say, oh, wow, this saved me so much time. It feels so good.
Yeah, that's what always we say, that we need to incorporate everyone in the testing, right? To generate, to make their empathy grow, and also for you to understand the pain points of the user. So that's a really, really good behavior that you have. Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit of the upcoming features of Optimal Workshop. So what can you tell us a little bit about this, if you can, of course?
Of course. Well, ever since I started at Optimal, I've been working specifically at qualitative data research. We have Reframer, that is a qualitative data analysis tool where people who do research can take their notes and analyze their notes. And I've been working on a second version of this ever since I started here. And it's in closed beta at the moment, but we are very close to get it out for everybody. And the main difference between this Reframer and the old Reframer is that we are going all into a more flexible analysis. We've heard a lot of feedback from the old Reframer that is quite strict and quite academic in the way that it leads your analysis. And we are going to a more flexible and visual way of doing qualitative data analysis with the help of Affinity Map. So we are connecting all your data to an affinity map so that you can create your themes and understand how your data relates with each other. So you can see the trends from far apart, and also having all of this data connected back to the observations so that you don't only know the trend, but you also know where that trend came from. You can trace it back to a session and to a participant, and that's powerful. And we want to give tools to people that think in different ways. So we understand that some people have a more visual way of understanding a lot of complex data. The affinity map is there for them. And we have a lot of people that have a more abstract way of looking at data, that really like more spreadsheets and things that are more structured. And we are also going to have tools for those people. So the idea is to have a series of tools for different ways of analyzing qualitative data with all the data connected in the same place. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's a great tool. And as I said, I've been working on it ever since the beginning of the discovery of like, what problem should we solve? Oh, this is a juicy problem. So it's been a very interesting journey. And now we are getting to the very exciting part where it's the evaluation, is putting that out and asking ourselves, okay, did the solution we dreamed of, did the solution we built based on so much research, does it connect with people? Does it actually solve problems? And I'm really excited about that, to be honest.
I'm excited of that as well, because qualitative research is the most complicated to analyze, right? Because it's more manual. So we definitely need a tool to help us to speed up this process. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about building a digital product, I think, that we can iterate on it. So it's an idea. If we release the idea out there and we see, okay, this is working, this is not working very well, we can and will iterate on it over a long period of time. So that's why I really enjoy building digital products. It's not about the first version. It's about the method that you use to continue improving on it over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned before that you are from Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Okay, probably people didn't notice for your great English, but that's really interesting. Yeah. So I would like to know a little bit more about this, because part of my audience, I know that they are from Brazil, the ones that understand a little bit of Spanish. So I would like to know a little bit of your experience on working in a different country, the challenges that you are facing or you faced when you did a change. So what can you tell us a little bit about that? And yeah, in general, your experience and some tips for people that are looking forward to change their career or the country, right?
Totally. To be honest, there's quite a lot of challenge. There's a lot of challenges. The first one is, of course, being able to leave the country you're from. Like, I had to work really, really, really hard to save a lot of money to be able to do this whole thing. And I think that's the thing. You have to work really, really hard if you want to do this kind of stuff, especially if you are from Brazil and many other places in the world. So that's the first thing. And the other thing that was quite surprising to me actually is that the culture is quite different. Sometimes we watch series and we see movies and we think, oh, it's normal, right? It's just like here, but in English. No, it's not. It's very different. The way people relate to each other, the way people relate to food, the way people relate to everything, it's quite different. And it can be shocking if you're not really used to it. I came to New Zealand by myself. I didn't kind of bring anyone with me. So it took a lot of time to kind of connect with the culture, connect with the people. In Brazil, you're walking on the streets and you meet someone and you say, oh, let's go to my place and have a barbecue, and bang, you're friends for life. Here, that doesn't really happen. It may happen, but it's not that common. It maybe you'll know someone for 1.5, 2 years before they can warm up to you.
Takes more time.
So it much more time. So that is a big difference that I was not expecting. And in work style, there's a lot of differences as well. I feel like I'm from São Paulo in Brazil, and I feel like the work kind of market there is more cutthroat. Like if you don't give your all 100% at all times, there's always someone to replace you. And here I feel a little bit more safe. I feel like I am much more, I can fail, you know, and it will be fine. It's fine. So I feel much more relaxed and at ease when doing my work, because I don't feel like someone else breathing on my neck to take my position at all times. So that is really great. But the tip that I would give to anyone, and I think that's like my big tip for life, is be curious. Always be curious. Keep searching for new stuff to learn. If you find something that you don't know or don't understand, or you feel a little bit doubtful about, research it. Just go deep into it. Find a video on YouTube and watch it. Read blog posts. Follow people that talk with people that know about that, you know. And I think that is very important. I think that's a very good way of learning, and also with connecting with people. And those are the two things that I enjoy the most, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And take action, right? Because sometimes I'm from Argentina, so we are there and we don't take the initiative to really do it, to really go to another place, go to another country, and we wait until we have all of the knowledge, right? So sometimes it's to take the action, right?
It is. It is very important to take the plunge, because there is that problem that I feel every researcher that I've met here at Optimal have the same problem of the analysis paralysis sometimes.
Yes.
When you have so much data in front of you, you have so many paths to take that you take none. And I guarantee that any of the paths that you take are probably going to be better than not taking any of them. So believe in yourself and go for it. It's the best thing you can do.
Exactly. Okay, great, Michael. So thank you very much for this interview. I think you not only share really good tips and experience about your work as a developer, but also I think that you are also going to inspire a lot of people that would like to make this move to work in another country. So this is really interesting. And also we are looking forward for your work with Reframer. I'm really excited to see more new features on this tool, which I really love. So thank you for your work, and it's very valuable for us, for UX designers. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It feels so good to hear that. Thank you very much for talking with me, Eugenia. And hit me up if you have any more questions. Let me know, and I'm here to help.
Muchas gracias, Michael, por ser parte de esta entrevista y por compartir tu experiencia con todos nosotros. Y sé que del otro lado hay muchos desarrolladores, muchos programadores que siguen UX Tips, que están interesados en aprender sobre UX Design, y también hay otras personas de otras áreas que colaboran con UX Designers. Así que me gustaría saber sobre la experiencia de ustedes, cómo colaboran con UX Designer, qué dificultades tienen y cómo podríamos todos colaborar de una forma mejor para poder crear mejores productos y servicios. Así que espero todos sus comentarios, así seguimos aprendiendo y compartiendo entre todos nosotros. Nos vemos en un próximo video. Michael, muito obrigada.
Nada.